Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ilham Nugroho. I will discuss about Chapter 3, the research problem. Researchers must first decide on the general problem area. This step is often difficult for beginning researchers. The difficulty is not due to a shortage of problem, but rather to the fact of the beginning must select a problem very early, when their understanding of how to do research is most limited. They are uncertain about the nature of research problem and how to go about solving them. Skill in doing research is to a large extent a matter of making wise choice about what to investigate. This skill takes time and repeat effort to develop, but the willing beginners can do it. The source of problem. The first question most students ask is, how do I find a research problem? Although there are no set rules for locating a problem, certain suggestions can help. Three important sources for research problem are experience, deduction from theory, and related literature. Non-education sources may also be useful. These sources are operate in both quantitative and qualitative research. Experience. Among the most fruitful sources for beginning research are their own experience as educational practitioners. Teachers have intuition or hunches about new relationship or why certain things in school happen the way they do. Teachers often question the effectiveness of certain classroom practice that have become routine, but that may be based more on tradition or authority than on scientific research. Number 2, theories. Theories are good source of a problem for research. A theory may be defined as a set of interrelated statements, principles, and propositions that specify the relationship among variables. The application of the general principles embodied in a theory to specific educational problem is only hypothetical. However, until research empirically confirm them. For example, assume a researcher is interested in how adolescents form their academic self-concept. Number 3, choosing a theory. Not all theories are equally useful to beginning the research. Let us examine some of the characteristics one searches for in a good theory for a research study. An essential characteristic of a good theory is that it is testable. A good theory is not only testable but also falsifiable. A good theory deals with some significant phenomenon or behavior that needs explanation, such as learning or motivation. A good theory provides the simple, clear, and most plausible explanation for the phenomenon. A good theory follows the principle or parsimony, which states that a theory should explain the largest number of facts, that smallest number of principles. A good theory has internal consistency. In summary, think of an education, psychology, or sociological theory that you find especially interesting. Read a summary of a theory in a journal, textbook, primary source, and then ask the question. Publish literature in your area of interest. A review of related literature might help in the following ways. You might find a study that needs to be replicated. You might Find a question that represents the next logical step in the research on a problem. The research outcome of one piece of research very often lead to new questions. In conclusion, published research can be great source of ideas for research. With some critical analysis of the research in your field and a bit creativity, you should be able to find several potential researchable problems.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Nabil Zulfikri and I will explain about reviews of research. Reviews of research that integrate and summarize studies on specific topic can be very useful for identifying a research problem. The Review of Educational Research published quarterly by American Educational Research Association (AERA). Since 1931, reviews and integrates educational literature on a different topic each volume. For example, the topic of volume 71 2007 was different, diversity and distinctiveness in education and learning. In 1973, AERA launched the Annual Review of Research in Education to provide summaries of what research has been done, is being done, and needs to be done in a specific broad topic each year. Volume 82 2008 focus on what counts as knowledge in educational settings, disciplinary knowledge, assessment, and curriculum. Approximately every 10 years, AERA published the Handbook of Research on Teaching. This volume lists, summarizes, and critically analyzes research in the field of teaching. Each edition contains authoritative articles by specialists on selected topic in the field. Comprehensive bibliographies are included by selected topics. Among the topics in the fourth edition are policies for licensing and assessment of teachers, special education, middle school teaching, teaching as a moral activity, and the teaching of physical education. AERA Encyclopedia of Educational Research 2004, designed to present a critical synthesis and interpretation of reported educational research, contains science articles with bibliographies providing well-documented discussion of recent trends and development, as well as traditional topics. Other useful periodicals include SciInfo, Education Abstract, and specialist reviews such as Social Work Abstract, Historical Abstract, and Medline or Medicine. Non-education sources. You can adopt theories or procedures you encounter in other fields to apply to education. The women's movement has led researchers to study gender stereotyping in educational material, the influence of school on the learning of sex roles, gender difference in achievement and personality, and so forth. The civil rights movement led to many studies about the education of minority children. The AIDS-acquired immunodeficiency syndrome epidemic has stimulated a great deal of research on the best procedure and material to use acquaint young people in school with the danger of the disease and how best to protect themselves from it. The inspiration for much valuable research in education has come from such non-education sources. Qualitative research problem. Just as is true for quantitative researchers, beginning qualitative researchers can look to their personal experience and interests, to theory, to the professional literature, or to current social issues and real-world concerns to find a potential problem. For example, a beginning researcher might be interested in how learning disabled students are integrated into regular high school classroom. Once researchers have selected the initial focus of inquiry, they need to identify exactly what they want to know about that topic. The focus of inquiry is thus narrowed to the aspect of the phenomenon that will be explored in the research study. The focus on inquiry mentioned previously can be stated as follows. How do other students treat learning disabled students? How do the learning disabled respond? Although the qualitative researcher intuitively arrives at hunches about the phenomenon, he or she does not formulate an initial hypothesis that the study tests. Suppose one is interested in the general topic of bullying behavior in elementary school. In a qualitative study, a researcher might ask how and why this behavior developed and could use naturalistic observation to investigate this behavior in an elementary school. The researcher would want to interview the bullies to find out what they are thinking and what their motive and goals are. The victims would also be interviewed to learn about their feelings. The researcher might also examine gender difference in bullying behavior and the reaction of peers to this behavior. Evaluating the problem. Number 1. The problem should behave significant, that is, it should be one whose solution will make a contribution to educational theory or practice. The problem may fill in gaps in current knowledge or help resolve some of the inconsistencies in previous research. Number 2. The problem should be one that will lead to new problems and so to further research. A good study, while arriving at an answer to one question, usually generate a number of other questions that need investigation. Avoid trivial problems that have little or no relationship to theory or previous research. Number 3. The problem must be researchable. Although this criterion would seem self-evident, in practice many proposed problems are not researchable. A researchable problem is one that can be attacked empirically, that is, it is possible to gather data that answer the question. Many interesting questions in education cannot be answered by scientific research. Number 4. The problem should be suitable for the researcher. It should be a problem whose solution is personally important because of what it could be contribute to your own knowledge or to improving your performance as an educational practitioner. In addition to interest, one must have the necessary research skill to carry the study through the completion. One may have to develop and validate instruments or do complex statistical analysis. Lastly, one should choose a problem that can be investigated in the allotted time and with the research available. Number 5. The problem should be ethically appropriate. That is, the problem should be one that you can investigate without violating ethical principles. Unlike researchers in the physical science, educational researchers are dealing with human subjects with feelings, sensitivities, and rights who must be treated ethically. At this point, there are three issues the researcher should consider. First, consent. Second, protection from harm. The last one is privacy.
Hello, my name is Sofawi Abdul Manan, name 196121170 from Group 8. Here, I will continue the presentation from Nabil. Starting the research problem. The next step after selecting and evaluating the problem is to state the problem in an investigable form. Beginning researchers usually have a general idea of what they want to investigate, but they have a hard time in articulating it, so they don't make progress. The statement of the problem varies according to the type of research, such as quantitative and qualitative research statement made separately. The problem statement in quantitative research. The statement of the problem in quantitative research determines the variable and population of interest. Some scholars prefer the form of the question simply, because it is straightforward and psychologically that directs the researchers to the text at hand in determining the answer to the question. But the method used is one acceptable way of presenting a research problem. The problem can be clarified further by defining the variables that are operationally involved. The problem statement in qualitative research. Qualitative researchers also start with the problems, but they state it more broadly than quantitative research. A problem statement or qualitative question indicates the general purpose of the research. Qualitative problem formulation begins with identifying a general topic or area that you would like to know more about. The general topics of interest are sometimes referred to by qualitative researchers as the focus of research. This initial broad focus provides a framework, but allows for change as the study progresses. As researchers collect data and discover new meanings, general problems narrow to more specific topics and new questions may emerge. Whereas quantitative researchers always raise problems before collecting data. Qualitative researchers can formulate problems after starting to collect data. In qualitative research, the statement may be somewhat general at first, but will become more in focus as research progresses. After exploring the site, the people, and the situation, the researcher narrowed down the choice and started the research problem more specifically, identifying population and variables. A good strategy for shaping a perceived problem or a vague idea of what you want to investigate into a researchable problem is to think in terms of population and variables. For example, let us consider Mrs. Burke, an elementary school principal whose question is, does individual tutoring by upper grade students have a positive effect on the reading achievement of younger below average readers? The population here is below average readers. Individual tutoring can be made into a variable by varying the type of tutoring used, varying the amount of tutoring time, or having some children receive the tutoring and others not receive tutoring. Tutoring is the independent variable because it is antecedent to reading achievement, and the principal is predicting that tutoring will have an effect on reading achievement. That is the dependent variable. Now it becomes obvious that the word tutoring is too general. Mrs. Burke decided to use word flash drill as the specific types of tutoring and to specify 15 minutes per day as the amount of time. The first have a positive effect on is quite vague until she considers it in terms of her independent variable. She wants a dependent variable that is independent of teacher judgment and decide to use reading scores from the California Achievement Test or CAT as the dependent variable. Mrs. Burke revised the statement of the problem. That is, among below average second grade graders, is there a difference in CAT rating scores between those who have received 15 minutes per day of individual word flash drill by upper grade students and those who have received no word drill? It is often useful to follow this procedure in a formal manner, similar to that used for diagramming a sentence. You can begin by drawing a vertical line and writing population to the left and variables to the right. Then list these elements in the study below the horizontal line. For the preceding example, the diagram will be as follows like this. Let's take another question. What is the relationship of dogmatism to political attitudes among college freshmen? Illustrated another point. Consider this diagram. This question is complete with a population and two variables. However, you cannot label the variable as the independent and dependent because it cannot be determined with its antecedent to the other. If you conduct a study to investigate status quo rather than a relationship between the variables, it may be complete with only one variable. Criteria for evaluating problem statement. The source of problems are experience, deduction from theory, related literature, and non-education source, all of which will form a tentative problem statement. From the tentative problem statement earlier, we make the question, is the problem stated clearly? If not, we have to restate. If yes, continue to the next question. Will the solution contribute to knowledge? If not, we have to reconsider. If yes, continue to the next question. Is the problem researchable? If not, we have to rethink. If yes, continue to the next question. Is the problem suitable for you? If not, we have to rethink. If yes, continue to the next question. Is it ethically appropriate? If not, we have to reconsider. If yes, continue to the next question. Is the study quantitative? If not, then the study is qualitative. If yes, continue to the next question. Have the variables and population been identified? If not, we have to rewrite. If so, then the problem statement evaluation process is complete. Thank you for your attention. I hope our presentation are useful for you guys. Thank you and see you in the next video.